Welcome each of you for this session called Improve Productivity through the 5 big factors on your agile projects. Okay, this session is very important for each of us because many a times we keep on rotating on the same orbit of sprint planning and daily stand-up meetings and a product backlog refinement session in between the sprint and the preparation for the sprint review and the sprint review session, and then sprint retrospective and taking care of the team and communicating the status. So this is where we keep on rotating. Now, at one point in time, what makes our life interesting? If you keep doing the same thing, you keep getting the same thing, right? Definitely, agile will provide discipline, right? So instead of waiting for a software at the end of 3 months or 4 months, it makes the working software available at the end of every sprint, right? So thereby, it actually enforces certain discipline. The discipline can be in terms of people, the discipline can be in terms of process, the discipline can be in terms of time bound, because at the end of every sprint, at the end of every release. So the time bound people discipline and process discipline will give us some productivity, let's say X. If we keep producing the same productivity, that is X user stories per sprint, per team, then what's the fun, right? We keep improving ourselves, right? We have to improve, right? If you keep doing the same thing, you keep getting the same thing. For example, you want to earn more salary year on year, then you have to show more productivity, right? So you can't just say, just because some other company has increased the salary year on year, I have to get it. Then companies may increase if if they can't retain the people. But if an employer has to happily improve your salary or the business to your organization, the key thing is you have to show more return on investment, and that is possible by improving the productivity. So friends, in this session, I wanted to highlight the 5 big factors which in my experience can increase our productivity. Okay, so there can be many factors, but in my experience, these 5 factors I found as the key factors which will improve the productivity. Okay, so let us get into each factor by factor. The first factor, in my opinion, is we need to fight for smaller user stories. Friends, in my experience, I came across situations wherein user stories of 20 story points or 13 story points or certain times 40 story points are prioritized. So they come up and say, look, this is a big story of 13 story point, and 13 story points worth of work I'm fitting within this sprint. So please go and develop it. Or in some other scenario, people come back and say, I am prioritizing a 40 story point worth of work for the sprint, right? So they think that, just 40 story points worth of work alone can be done and they can showcase the same value to the end user. That's what the product think. But friends, I'm telling you, if you fit a big user story in a sprint, reality is it won't be like that. The reality is, for some reason or the other reason, this big user story, because of some ambiguity, it will get spillover to the next sprint. Instead, if you keep little stories, if you split the story into smaller user stories, like little user stories, you see that many things are happening in the process, right? So we have to pitch for smaller user stories. See, friends, if a 13 user story points worth of work is prioritized for a sprint, what happens is, we are not ready to split it in smaller user stories because of our inefficiency. Again, friends, I'm telling you, after crossing the age of 16 years, this is what my professor told. After crossing the age of 16 years, each of us, suffer with ego problem. We don't listen to each other, right? So if you go and tell to the product, look, can we split this 13 story points into smaller size? They'll say, no, 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 it is not possible. This is the smallest that I can think of. If you go and tell to the development team, then they also say, hey, we are used to it. Yeah, we can do it. So what happens if you take larger user stories? If you are unable to split it because you don't know the technique of splitting it. Let us suppose that you wanted to continue these 13 story points. What happens is you end up developing certain redundant functionality. For example, if this can be split into 8 story points and 5 story points ideally, and if you develop it as a 13 story points worth of work, you end up adding more commonality, more redundancy, you end up adding more technical debt. And I just want to let you know, friends, the people who can define a problem in a simpler way or a requirement in a simpler way, they are more clear about the requirements. The people who take more words to explain a specific requirement or specific topic, probably they are not too sure, or they may require to enhance their knowledge. So in my experience, I found one factor, that whoever could able to simplify or explain things in simple words that any common man can understand, this is where their clarity is increasing. So if we are saying we are taking larger user stories, that means we are not following the rule of simplicity. That means without that simplicity, there is a possibility for higher ambiguity. There is a possibility of redundancy. There's a possibility of adding more technical debt, and it unnecessarily bothers us tomorrow. So that is why the user stories hurt the team productivity when they're too big. I'm repeating, user stories hurt team productivity when they're too big. Larger user stories are more likely to be confusing, my dear friends. Okay, and they're difficult to know what needs to be done next. And usually they take more time than expected. You will see a lot of spillovers, and also the quality will suffer, and unnecessarily the team will be blamed. Again, I'm telling my friends, see, if you take a cricket match, right, the openers, they take their own sweet time to make runs, but the stakeholders will curse, usually the tail enders, towards the end of the match. Similarly, in the development also, the product team and other stakeholders, they take their own time, but it's the development team who takes the last over, right? The last tick or the last stage. So, and they take the blame that they're not able to complete the user stories on time or within the quality. But the culprit is larger user stories. Larger user stories, larger ambiguity. Larger user stories, larger technical debt. Larger user stories, less productivity. Because the moment the user story gets spill over to the next sprint, what did you do in the last sprint? The big user story itself got rolled out to the next user story, next sprint. So because of this, friends, I am conveying that larger user stories are more likely to be confusing, right? On the other side, smaller user stories are easier to understand because smaller user stories are defined in simple way. When you follow simplicity, that means you are adding more clarity, more expertise, so they're easy to understand. And it may reduce the amount of work needed because the clarity is there, simplicity is there, and you don't add up the technical debt to build that huge user story, right? On the screen I showed that, in the name of developing a bigger user story, you may end up adding technical debt, which is a overlapping between two user stories. But when you define them individually, you can split them. You can basically split, okay, this commonality, instead of saying 8 story point here, I will say this is 5 story point and commonality is 2 story points. Now this 5 story points is common function is 2 story points and 3 story points. So 8, 2, 3. So 8 plus 2, 10, 10 plus 3, 13. 13 user stories will be there, because for the commonality, I'm adding 2 story points, which is common to both. So 8 plus 2 plus 3, because so it will not be 8, right? Because this 2 story points is here. So 8 minus 2 is 6. So this piece is 6. 6 plus 2, 8 plus 3, 9. So from 13 story points, it has cut to 9 story points. How? I'm repeating. It is the commonality, I'm giving 2 story points, right? This 2 story points is common to both user stories. So if you put 2 story points, this 8 story points will become 2 stories. 6 stories, story points and 2 story points. 6 plus 2, 8. And then remaining 3 stories here, 9. So from 13 to 9, you straight away cut it, right? So your effort is decreasing, your clarity is increasing, and you are not adding technical debt. You're not adding redundancy, right? So they're easier to understand, and it reduces the amount of the work needed. And also there's more probability that you end up developing more user stories, completing more user stories. Even the process, if one user story, one little story got spilled over, it's only 2 story points you're pushing to the next sprint. But however, the remaining user stories you're able to complete. Right, friends? Even when you start a day, when you wanted to do a 10-hour preparation, you can't do it. Instead, if you split the 10 hours into, let's say, half an hour tasks, then you end up completing many tasks. You can check it out. It's a common sense, but it's just that we are not implementing on agile projects. So that's why, my friends, the user stories hurt the team productivity when they are too big. That's why the first and fundamental thing that increases the productivity is smaller user stories. User stories should be small, and they are definition of ready. See, friends, this definition of ready is higher importance. Usually what happens is the product comes and says, guys, you take it up the story, and there's a third-party dependency, and that third-party dependency will get solved in the third day. And you pick it up, and third day comes, you have a dependency on a vendor who has to provide certain API to you, and that will not come. So at the end of the day, you can't complete that user story because your dependency on the vendor is not resolved. And at the end of the sprint, you look like you delivered less stories. Is it because of your fault? No, it is because the whatever dependency the product or stakeholder said, saying that we will arrange this dependency to be resolved by third day, that is not solved. But do you think that after 2 or 3 sprints, anybody remembers it? No, people only will say this team's velocity is less. So that is why we have to step up and say, if a user story is not definition of ready, that means you can follow invest principle. The story can be independent. The story can be small. The story should be negotiable. The story should be verifiable. The story should have proper acceptance criteria. The story should have proper estimation, or it should be split. It should fit within this particular sprint, right? So likewise, I'm telling you, definition of ready is arrived by a team, and that checklist of items a story should comply. Then only the team should take that story to a sprint. In the absence of a team respecting the definition of ready, that means that this particular sprint, this user story is not a definition of ready. There are certain ambiguities are there, certain dependencies are there, okay, or otherwise certain upstream dependency that should be resolved that has not yet been resolved. So in the absence of this, if you take, then what happens is you end up not completing the user story, and ultimately team appears in front of the stakeholders as if they have not done it, and their velocity will not increase. So the first factor is smaller user stories, definition of ready user stories, and usually the stories should be of size 2 story points, 3 story points, 1 story point, and usually less than 5. Only in extreme conditions go for 8. Okay, not more than that. So when you are able to slice it at that point in time, there is a high possibility that you can get more productivity out of the team. And believe me, my friends, this is not on the technical team. Usually, whenever we want more productivity, there is a notion, there is a misconception stating that people have to work hard. No, user story should be defined smaller a level and usually less than 5 story points, and that should be definition of ready stories. This is an expectation we keep on the product. It is not on the technical team at all. Technical team contributes to grooming user stories, but I want smaller user stories. It's just an expectation. The moment you set that expectation to the product, and then your productivity starts increasing. So with no extra effort, you are actually increasing your productivity. So friends, the beauty here is without stretching hard, just by saying something as something, or just telling that, we want smaller user stories, you are actually increasing the team's productivity by completing more user stories, as I have outlined here. Little user stories make a bigger velocity at the end of the sprint. Yeah. So with no effort from the development team, just telling this expectation to the product and just stepping up saying that we want smaller user stories, we want bigger stories to be split into smaller scale, our productivity is increasing. Yeah, this is one thing. What is the second factor? The second factor is estimate it right. See, friends, in my experience, this is an area where we are doing terribly wrong. Okay, let me tell you one by one. Okay, now, if you have to estimate stories in terms of story points, I see many people, they are awarding story points only based on effort. Friends, this is not going to work. If you can correlate a story point to an effort, why you are coining the word story point? Instead, you can as well say of hours. Why are you saying story points? You are saying story points because it requires 3 ingredients: complexity, unknown or risk factor, and effort involved. Let me tell you one thing. If a 1 hour job done by a cycle mechanic or a doctor or a military professional, they are not the same. They take different risks. Just if you correlate story point of 1 hour of cycle mechanic, 1 hour of doctor doing operation, 1 hour doing a military professional performing the activity with his gun, I don't think the outcome is same. The doctor takes bigger risk. Military professional takes even more risk, even more bigger risk. Operations have a lot of complexity, right? So story point cannot just be correlated to effort. Many number of times we tell it, but people are not listening. I'm telling you, my friends, you not understanding the story point concept well, what you are doing is you end up doing complex tasks, riskier tasks, and you are assigning less story points for it. And your hard work is not realized. Your team's hard work is not realized, right? You end up working on complexity. What is complexity? The tasks which require slow thinking, the tasks which require in-depth analysis, the task requires, a senior developers contribution, the task where analysis and design requires review. Okay, here it is review, right? And unless the approach is properly reviewed, you can't proceed. Similarly, the task which deals with many variables, or the variables can be less, but you have to process it with a specific criteria, with special attention to get what you want, right? It is not straight lift of parameters from an API that is supporting the variables. You have to process it. You have to cultivate it, and you have to do some lot of validations on top of those variables to really see whether you can use it or not. This is where complexity is increasing. So as a thumb rule, where the complexity is high, where you require your senior doctor to come and operate, that means your senior designer, your senior professional come and work on it. That is an indication of complexity. Where you think that your function is actually processing many variables, or you think that the API that you are touching has many functions inside it, or you think that there are so much technical debt already involved. Okay, so you are actually trying to do a band-aid on top of that. So you do which one, you touch it, what will happen, the other aspect you do not know within the same function, right? Wherever in-depth analysis is required, wherever slow thinking is required, there the complexity is high. Okay, if it is a repetitive task, complexity is not there. But if it is a first time task, a unique task, and it requires a in-depth analysis, there is a complexity involved. And now, if you don't award sometimes story points with complexity, we are only missing the picture. We end up working hard, but we claim less story points. Why? Work-wise we are doing, but story points we are not claiming. The second factor is unknown or risk factor. For example, you work on a specific component and you deliver it, or you do integration testing. It is going to impact other variables, or it is going to impact other functions. Then there is a risk that system may not work as expected, or there is a regression impact, or you are doing things for the first time, or the technology is new, or the team that is working is completely new. And if things won't go in a proper way, then there is a business impact if it's not handled well. So these are the thumb rules for risk or unknown factor. And then third one is called effort. That means effort required to complete a story, right? You have to keep average team member in mind while doing effort estimation. You cannot just keep an expert developer as effort estimate, right? Usually in effort estimation, it's only the senior people who talks. Other people who are relatively junior, they keep quiet. They just honor the estimates provided by the senior developer in some of the occasions. So that will not fly. You have to keep average developer. That means not very experienced, not very new. In between the average experience, effort or capability you have to keep while estimating efforts. So friends, estimating story points right is, are you utilizing the complexity, unknown factor and effort? In my experience, my friends, people are not utilizing the complexity and unknown factors at all. Let me tell it categorically. How many number of times we tell? They are correlating effort to the story points, and thereby they are decreasing their own productivity, right? So complexity part, unknown part and effort part, you have to consider. Let me give you an example. See here, what happens? Like there is all the 3 user stories are having 8 hours, but the complexity wise, user story 3 is more complex, because here you have to do more in-depth analysis. It requires more senior developers or testers. And so you have to award a bit more story points for this, even though it is taking 8 hours. Similarly, user story 2 is actually taking more risk, because there can be a regression impact if it is not handled well, or if this particular story is not properly completed, and there is a possibility of downtime, so of the entire production. So that's why I'm telling you, even though the 3 stories are taking 8 hours alone, just because some stories are having more complexity, more risk involved, you have to award extra story points for it. This is where I'm pitching in, friends. I'm telling you, just on the effort involved, you can't attribute story points. If you do that, you are not doing justice to your efforts. Your efforts means your contributions. You're also not doing justice to your team's contribution. So story points need to be stepped up for the complexity and the unknown factor, as I've explained here, right? And then this is where you can claim more story points. The next one, when it comes to sprint planning, right? You are basically estimating the hours. Now, my next question is, are you considering the definition of done? For example, I'm just taking, understand from the developer's perspective, understanding the requirements, design approach formulation, and then the approach has to be reviewed. And then there should be a code review or development of the code. And then you have to create unit tests. And then the whole development code and unit tests need to be reviewed. and then review comments need to be incorporated, and the developers need to be available to fix the bugs raised by the QA professional. And then developer need to sign off, saying that from my side, I'm done everything. Now, my question is, if you open a specific story, do you find these many tasks for the developer's perspective? I don't know. At least in 60% scenarios, I don't see these tasks created. What they do, they just assign hours by looking at the story. The story will be there, acceptance criteria will be written in a partial way, and they just award efforts. How do you do that? Now, as a Scrum Master, as a PMO, you have the right. Guys, you have not created all the tasks. What is a guarantee that you have estimated it right? See, the reality is, my friends, you end up doing all those things, but it's just that you have not accounted on the sprint planning day. And because of this, you are spending effort for this, because unless you do this, you don't get quality. And you are not accounting the hours for it. For example, you end up working for, let's say, 12 hours or 14 hours, but estimation is 8 hours. That means around 4 to 5 hours extra you're working. Why are you not asking for the productivity story points for that? Similarly, if you see QA, the QA has to understand the requirements. Test case has to be created. Test case review should happen. Automation of test case should be there, if possible, if applicable. Review of automation suite, and then review comments incorporation. And friends, I'm telling you, I come across situations wherein developers are doing demonstration of the stories to product. Ideally, it should be QA. Why? Because QA is that particular skill set, the QA professionals or test professionals, they test it keeping the end user experience in consideration. And they are at better stage to demonstrate the product to the solution or working software to the product people, right? So why are we leveraging the task to developers? Instead, we'll ask QA to demonstrate it, assign some hours for that, right? And then, bug fixes support. For example, the moment they raise bugs, the developers will say, can you reproduce it? I can't reproduce it. The developers will show many cinemas, many movies to the QAs. It's only QA people who knows those movies, right? So it is not reproducible on my system. What can I do? If it is not reproducible on my system, I can't work on it. So then QAs have to step up and they have to reproduce it. And nowadays we are actually having the AWS based operating systems. Then the job will become even more difficult, right? So in that case, the QA is spending effort to support the dev in reproducing it, in fixing the bugs, and they don't estimate those many hours there. So if they don't estimate the hours there, what happens is they are not actually estimating it properly. And it's basically, you're telling, you end up doing all the things, but you are not asking or budgeting or accounting these many story points. So friends, I'm telling you, whether you on the sprint planning day, you split the tasks into, you split the story into tasks and assign hours. I don't see these many tasks are there on the story and subtasks. I don't see many number of times. And when you don't have these many tasks, what will happen is you end up working all these things, all these tasks, but you are only asking less story points or less hours. And it is making you stretch, frustrate, and you're working, but you don't know where the productivity is lacking. So my friends, the second factor, according to me, is, estimations are not properly right. The estimations are, you have to consider complexity, risk factor, and effort involved. When I said complexity, it deals with analysis. It refers with the senior people spending effort. It refers to, same function having many components within, or there's a more technical debt involved, and you have to really carefully observe the local, global, and application variables within the function that you are working upon. So that is what is complexity. Risk factor is, it's the first time you're doing, okay, and then there is an integration or regression impact if you don't do your job properly, and ultimately business will be impacted and production will be down. So that risk will be there. Or there are certain key features we don't want that to be down. For example, yesterday I was speaking with some people, and people say Netflix has zero downtime so far. This is what they told. Very nice to listen, right? So a downtime of a specific application, it's basically it is just not the product, but also the brand is also getting suffered, right? So we have to really understand the risk factor, and we have to spend more effort in ensuring that those risks are rectified or addressed. And third is effort, and this effort is the effort of average competent person, not very efficient person, or not very low or newly joined person. Yeah. So as a side here, even though effort is same, story points can be different depending upon complexity or the risk as well, in addition to the effort. And third, definition of done, whether it is developer definition of done and QA definition of done, all these tasks we should see under a story. If you just estimate without documenting these tasks, then what happens is you end up estimating low. And when you end up estimating low, you estimate less, but you spend more hours. So then where come you can bring productivity? See, all these things I'm telling without spending any extra effort from you, how to get more productivity. Yeah. So this is what is the estimation. The third factor, friends, I'm telling you, I was going through a book of Brian Tracy. This actually attracted my attention. He says, your ability to concentrate single-mindedly on one thing, the most important thing, and stay at it until it is complete, is essential prerequisite for success. See, friends, I'm telling you, we keep doing many things in a day or a sprint. But the point is, I am busy. Okay, fine. But in a day, how many tasks or how many activities you are actually taking to completion? That matters. And believe me, my friend, this is to do with the specific person, whether he can be a developer, a scrum master, or a tester, or a product. Are you doing job one thing at a time with absolute attention? I'm repeating, friends, this is something that is only you can evaluate yourself, right? Am I doing this task with absolute concentration? No diversions. Friends, I'm telling you today, at the end of the day, what you take away is not the salary. What you take away is the professional satisfaction. I just want to let you know that, you do tasks, you learn it, you perform it, you practice it, you repeat it, and you provide perfection, and then you provide a different meaning to it. Then only you are actually learning, practicing perfection, and then you are showing a class and style to your job, right? So same thing when you're repeating, how can I get it done in lesser amount of time? For example, if you are doing integration stories, 3-4 sprints back, I have taken, let's say, 35 hours. This time I want to complete it in 23 hours. If you are doing something repetitive, if you are producing a report, and if that report is taking, let's say, 8 hours, and now after repetitions, you should identify ways of saving 2 hours out of it. Instead of 8 hours, 6 hours. Instead of 6 hours, 4 hours. So when you repeat it, you need to identify means of saving time. This we will do. The children will do. The auto drivers will do. The taxi drivers will do. Everybody will do. But why we are not doing? Last year, 40 hours estimate. This year, 40 hours estimate. Why? At the end of the day, we wanted to enjoy the comfort. Friends, I'm telling you, if you start enjoying the comfort, somebody else will take that distinction and they show the class, because it is an open market, right? If one particular product doesn't perform, other product will come and play. Let's take Intel as an example, right? It is facing a lot of competition now. At one point in time, Intel is a monopoly. Okay, now AMD has come. They are actually producing the same processors at a lower cost. Now they have to reduce their prices. They have to take care of stakeholders. See, friends, I'm telling you, Bajaj Chetak, right? The Bajaj scooters were produced and they were a monopoly in scooter market. Now, Bajaj, you don't see them at all in the market. Why? Because they were used to comfort. They were thinking that, the scooters need to be produced by us. But now they're not there. Bajaj scooters are not there in the market. So likewise, as a person, we are a brand. I'm a brand. You are a brand. Now, if you don't improve day after day, there will be somebody who will show that. I've seen many cases. I've seen people who say this cannot be done more less than 6 hours. But I've seen somebody else coming and doing in 3 hours, in 2 hours. I've seen it. See, friends, I'm telling you, we are there on the job as long as we are relevant to the business objectives. The moment we are not relevant there, somebody else will. It's like if you don't take care of customers, somebody else will. So likewise, friends, I'm telling you, if you have concentration, you have everything in life. If you don't have concentration, however millionaire and billionaire you are, you have zero thing with you. Let me repeat, my friends. Money, comfort, and once we come to the end of the life, my friend, these are all just a comforting factor. What defines us is our dharma, our duty, right? And for that, we need to have focus, right? Concentration with single-mindedness on one thing at a time, one thing at a time. Even computer at a microsecond level, it focuses one thing at a time. We cannot do two things at a time. So make sure you in a day, complete only 3 big things, not more than that, but do it with better concentration. If you're a developer, do things with better concentration. Like, what are the variables? What is the scope of this particular variable? Why I should use this particular variable? Now, can I do things differently? Okay, for this particular problem, I probably will fix it in a shorter way, but there can be a long-term solution. What is a short-term solution? What is a long-term solution? The moment you start thinking about it, this problem solving will give you kick, and that kick will give you satisfaction, and that satisfaction will deserve the respect for you, right? I'm telling you. Similarly, if you're a QA professional, right? Now, what are the happy path test cases? What are the alternate test cases? What are the failure test cases? What are the non-functional test cases? How can I break the system? This is how a QA has to work upon, right? So that particular validation, that means you are actually bringing the defects well before people identify it in production. So that defines your value. So that is your class. To that, you have to concentrate. So similarly, a Scrum Master, right? Now, there's a people problem will be there. Now, people will come and make it a big chaos in front of you. Now, at that particular point, it may look like they're right, but certain times you have to step back. You have to think slowly. What are these dots? How can I connect these dots? Where these dots will go? And what is the credibility of each resource in my team? And am I thinking right? Certain times you have to take fast decisions, which are repeated and less risk-oriented. But there are certain high risk-oriented points will be there. Now, there you need to do a slow thinking. You have to involve key stakeholders. And then, the way you go and engage with customers, right? Certain times customers will come in a very aggressive way. Now, the approach, the kind of words, the choice of the words, the preparation that you take towards those meetings defines you. They say, so-and-so person is very good at handling customers. So-and-so person is very good at handling teams. What is the difference? The difference is, your ability to concentrate on the details, your ability on addressing the problem. So I'm telling you, my friends, whether you are a developer, whether you are a tester, always think about how can I do my job even with more better productivity. If you're repeating the same job, then you should complete in lesser amount of time. If day before yesterday I have taken 6 hours, yesterday I should take 5 hours, today I should take 4 hours, right? This is how a repetitive task should come down on the effort. If it is a unique task, then ask for more story points, because complexity is there. because risk is there, right? If you're doing unique task, ask for more story points. If you're doing same task, complete in less amount of time and ask for more story points, right? So this is how you can actually achieve with concentration. Again, my friends, if you have focus, you have everything with you in your life. You need to have two things, my friends: focus and health. Okay, the moment you are having health and focus, you have everything with you. If you don't have focus, my friend, I'm telling you, even if you are a billionaire, nothing you have at your hand. You will be at mercy of others just in a short span of time, just a matter of time, right? So concentrate single-mindedly, one thing at a task is one thing at a time is a key thing. Then the fourth one, my friends, is resolving the impediments at a faster, rapid speed. See, I came across a situation wherein the impediments are actually raised by the team towards the end of the sprint. That means 9th day or 10th day. So what happens is when they raise the impediments on 9th and 10th day or 8th day, what happens is you are green, 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 you become amber and you turn red. Why? Because the team members are raising impediments towards the end of the sprint. It is not going to work, my friends. See, this is possible because whenever you ask friends, do you see any impediments? They only look at the story that they're handling on first day. No, you should identify the entire sprint payload that is assigned to you. For example, if you are volunteering to take 3 stories in that sprint, keep 3 stories in mind and raise the impediments as early as possible. Just like we have hours-wise burn down chart, we also need to have impediment-wise burn down chart. It's an idea of agile, friends. I'm not telling a new thing. This is impediment burn down chart. If you maintain it in a sprint, it tells a lot. If impediments are not resolved day after day, right? That means there's a problem with the stakeholders. There's a problem with the communication. There's a problem with facilitation, right? So what I'm telling is, ideally, all people should keep the entire sprint load and they should raise the impediments as early as possible. And then the Scrum Master and concerned team members, right? Because at the end of the day, Scrum Master can only facilitate. He or she requires support of the team members to resolve it, right? So we need to resolve the impediments with rapid speed. I came across a situation, my friends. I asked one Scrum Master, look, there are 3 impediments. When are they getting solved? Then the Scrum Master said, out of 3, 1 is urgent, I'm working on it. Other 2, I can wait. Who are you to say we can wait? You cannot say like that. See, our job is to ensure the impediments are resolved at the earliest possible time. It is up to the developer when they pick that particular story. You can't take comfort of developers and QA people. The moment impediment is resolved, our job is to resolve it at the fastest speed. That is our job. Friends, I'm telling you, as a Scrum Master, as a PMO member, we don't do coding, we don't do testing. Are you just reporting? And do you think just reporting, do you think that you will actually do a good job? No, my friends, I'm telling you. We don't do coding. We actually ensure that reporting, facilitation, or the bonding, or the impediments are getting solved. These are all part of our job definition. You cannot keep impediments in open state when you think something can be done. You can keep impediments in open state only if you are exhausted with all options, right? This impediment can wait. Don't take that road. Impediment has to be resolved at the fastest speed. And the moment you resolve it, it is up to the developers when they pick it up, right? So friends, 3 things I'm talking about under this topic. Number 1, each developer or tester or QA person, they should keep the entire sprint payload, entire sprint backlog into their mind, and they should raise impediments as early as possible. That means we want a healthy trend where more number of impediments are resolved at the beginning days of the sprint. The moment they raise the impediments, the Scrum Master and concerned team members, they should resolve the impediments at the highest possible speed. Zero tolerance. And believe me, my friends, the moment you inculcate this habit, people will treat you, hey, this person is a go-getter. You said to give the impediment to this person will solve in 2 minutes. And friends, I'm telling you, the business loves to have to those people who are actually go-getters, right? What are we doing? We are just working with 100% focus. We're trying to see whether impediment can be solved with all possible options. And what if you can't solve an impediment? Assign that impediment to the person who can do that. Don't keep an impediment with you more than a day when you can't solve it. Simple. If you can't solve it, assign it to somebody who can do that. At least do that. But don't keep as impediments on your name and don't solve it. And if you are not solving it, you're doing injustice. See, friends, whatever I'm telling, it may look like a little hypothetical, but I'm telling you the rate at which, the passion at which you resolve impediments will actually improve the productivity a lot. And I'm saying, like the way you maintain a sprint burn down chart for the remaining effort or remaining story points, it's also a good idea to track the burn down chart for the impediments. Burn down chart for impediments, saying that how many impediments are an open state on each day. If you put a chart, then that speaks a lot to many people and it solves many problems. And it definitely, the moment you are raising impediments early and you are solving the impediments early, it improves the productivity. And the final theme, my friend. See, most of us are employees. Okay. But friends, I'm telling you, time has come that we have to think each team as one entrepreneur unit. For example, if you're having 6 members Scrum team, okay, and you can think that each person's average salary, like some people may be earning more, some people may be earning less, around 50,000 per month. Now 6 members working for average salary is 50,000 is 3 lakhs. Now, if you have to spend 3 lakhs out of your pocket towards your household things or something, what kind of accountability you actually expect? What kind of productivity you expect? What kind of trustworthiness you expect? I'm repeating, a 6-member team, assuming that average salary of each person is 50,000, 6 members into 50,000 is 3 lakhs. And assume that you have to pay 3 lakhs out of your pocket to some task at your home. Like probably, you are actually asking carpenter to do a furniture or electrician to do something. And you have to do 3 lakhs to the person. You have to give. What kind of accountability, what kind of skills, what kind of productivity you expect out of that person? I'm telling you, your employer is a poor administrator compared to you when you become an employee. I'm repeating, my friends, you are a tough supervisor to your workforce than the supervisor who is actually monitoring you at your work. I'm repeating, my friends, if 3 lakhs is given to you and if you have to give 3 lakhs, you'll ask, why this much amount of time? Can't this particular equipment be procured at lesser cost? Or you think internally, is it because I am not accompanied that person? Because of this, is he quoting more cost? And can I solve this even early? Or do you think 2 people are required? You're bringing 2 people every day. Do you think 2 people are required? These are the questions you and I ask, is it not? My question is, ask yourself, 3 lakhs is, let's assume that your team is investing. That is a salary, right? On top of that, you have to earn profit. Now, what are the ways? For example, is the engineering practice that I am deploying, like paid programming that I'm doing, is it beneficial? If it's beneficial, I want to put it. If it's not beneficial, I don't want to do that. Reviews. So certain team says, I'm doing 2 reviews. Now, you'll keep on waiting for the reviewer and the reviewer is not available. And then he comes and then he won't give any review comments. Then you have to question, why I need this review? When this is not adding any value to my product, why? And then you end up doing certain tasks and those tasks are not value adding. Then question it, because at the end of the day, 3 lakhs you're putting out of it. See, friends, I'm telling you, just this theme saying that you have to own that, you think that 3 lakhs for 6 members, you are investing out of your pocket. And with that scanner, the moment you analyze all the activities, you'll try to identify more efficiency activities like engineering practices. You will try to remove some unnecessary practices which the teams are doing for namesake. You will try to come up with new ways of solving things where you can optimize the costs. And the moment you do it, my friends, you're not only mastering the scrum practices, you are actually also doing the engineering practices. You can as well go for feature driven programming. You can actually take the teams towards the cross functional teams. All those things will come into picture. Think that you are giving the salary to the people out of your own pocket. I'm saying not to the people. I'm talking about 3 lakhs you're investing for the work that team is giving back to you. Do you think this is valid? No means we as a team, it's better instead of somebody coming and telling us, it's better we own ourselves, realize that, okay, how I can improve upon. See, friends, I'm telling you today, there's a lot of shift in terms of employees' perception. Now, people are not ready to join big companies because in big companies, you have a brand name, but you are restricted to do certain kind of things. You have a comfort, and we are in a private industry. When we are used to comfort, that means our juniors are learning more. So that is the reason now there is a high inclination to join smaller organizations, because there's a higher possibility of contributing to a bigger height. Because in smaller organization, there's a greater space for situation leaders. So if we get used to comfort feeling, and others will actually solve it in a better way, and then it will make us redundant. And at the end of the day, my friends, if I am redundant, then I have to earn. I have to make sure of my livelihood. And I'm not in a government sector, I'm in a private sector. And in a private sector, your health, your knowledge, your network, okay, your contribution matters a lot. Your work speaks for you. Okay, so it's not a government sector where your pension is also assured, right? It's not like that, right? We have to create a better tomorrow, and for that we need good skill. So for that, my friend, the 5th factor is, okay, if a 6-member team is working for 1 month, assume 50,000 the organization is investing in terms of salaries, so 3 lakhs per month, and the kind of output, the kind of features that they bring, and if you keep this particular thing, okay, do you think it is worth of 3 lakhs? Then everything will get exposed. Okay, I've seen people, okay, why are you taking so much time for doing these features? I have done it. I have sent this particular thing to the reviewer has not done it. What can I do? I've done my part. This kind of statements you will say. Now, what is missing there? Accountability is missing. What is missing there? Ownership is missing. What is missing there? Working with highest possible efficiency is missing. What is missing there? We are losing the opportunity of enjoying the work, our passion. We are losing the opportunity of connecting our own strengths. See, friends, I'm telling you, I don't know something, so I can't do it. It's okay. But I know, but I could not do is the area where I want you to reduce. See, friends, if you think that you are investing your own money, whatever expectations you have on your workforce at home, half of it you perform at the office, you will actually be given the best employee award. Yeah. So friends, what are the 5 factors that can improve your productivity on agile projects? 1, the smaller user stories or requirements, rightly estimation, and doing one thing at a time with in absolute concentration, concentrate single-mindedly, and resolve the impediments with rapid speed, and think as if you are spending team's money out of your own pocket, and start understanding whether value addition is coming or not. With this, I thank your time to learn. I look forward to add many value add sessions in future, and I thank your interest. Thank you.